Caesars William Hill with the Western Conference play-in odds. The Grizzlies favored at -4. Lakers -5. So far, LeBron and Steph, listen to this. They've met 38 times, including the playoffs, with Steph having the edge of 22 wins to LeBron's 16. So here now, the Daily Wager crew with more.
Hello there, DGen Nation. I am Doug Kezirian alongside Tyler Fulghum. It is the Daily Wager Studios here on the Las Vegas Strip. All right, the time has arrived. Warriors-Lakers, who you got?
Think that game that we see on ESPN Wednesday night is going to go the way of the Lakers, not just because LeBron James is back, but because they have been anchored by the #1 ranked defense all season long, even when AD and LeBron were on the shelf. They have bodies and they have the scheme to throw at Steph Curry. He averaged just 23 points per game against them this season, well below his season average as the league's leading scorer. Again, the body and the schemes, the efficiency drops from the field, from downtown. He doesn't have guys like Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant next to him that they have to worry about. Everyone on the Lakers can focus on Steph and allow Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Kent Bazemore, and Kelly Oubre to get the shots up. That's why I think the Lakers win this game, anchored by their defense.
I know LeBron's not 100%, but this line does feel a little low. I like the Lakers as well. I also like the second quarter under. What happens with these quarter lines, and you can bet them in advance, is they chop them up in relation to the game line. But the question is, Steph Curry doesn't play the equal amount of minutes in every single quarter. In fact, he plays the entire first quarter for the most part all season, and then starts on the bench, gets his rest for the beginning of the second quarter, about half the quarter. Well, go figure, Golden State's production won't be the same. No other team has that kind of a drop-off between the best player and the second best player. A lot of coaches stagger minutes. Guys like the Jazz, Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley start the second. They come out the first. Giannis does that a lot, but there's just such a drop-off between Steph and everyone else. You really get an advantage because the production is skewed that way. So I like under, because the Lakers will have some reserves as well, and they'll be leaning on that defense that ranks #1 in defensive efficiency. All right, let's go to the other play-in game out west, Spurs and Grizzlies. I'm going to take San Antonio here, not with the same sort of conviction, but I just trust Pop, and I trust that team more, getting a few points as well. I'm just not quite sold on Memphis. They burned me a few times for sure, but just the playoff experience, this is sort of a playoff-esque game. I'm going to take the Spurs and the points.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as trusting the Spurs a little bit more, even though down the stretch they struggled. I still think teams like Memphis, maybe just a year away before we start to take them serious. Maybe they get that type of experience they need this year. But the massive coaching advantage with Pop, I think the best, most experienced player on the floor is going to be DeMar DeRozan. So I do believe that we see a track meet type of game. Out of the 5 times these two teams met this season, the Spurs and the Grizzlies went over the total in that game. So I think we see that again. This is the one game in the playoff play-in scenario where I'm willing to bet the over. I'm on unders everywhere else as we wait for kind of the market to adjust to the way that the playoff games are played. But I think what we saw during the regular season with these two teams leads me to the over. And I just like getting points in my pocket with Pop.
Yeah, exactly. And neither impressed me down the stretch where they had games they needed to win and didn't. So a little concerning on that front. Let's send it back to Sports Nation.
Let's go now around the association. Links at Liberty, and I'm going with light work because Sabrina Ionescu continues to dominate. 26, 12, and 10, the first triple-double in franchise history. And listen to this, both of you. It took her just 6 games to notch her first triple-double. It actually took her 7 games in college, so the WNBA actually seems to be easier for her. No big deal. Now,
bucket.
Here's a little perspective on how big an achievement this is. Before the season, no player in WNBA history had recorded a triple-double in their first 50 career games. Like we said, Sabrina doing it in just her 6, so go on with your bad self.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sabrina.
At 23 years and 163 days old, she is the youngest player in WNBA history to notch a triple-double.
Sheesh.
Mercury Mystics was straight up Tina time. 22 points for the legend, and she's now up to 9th on the all-time scoring list in the WNBA. She's just the 11th player in league history to reach 6,000 points. Now I recognize that Washington lost the game by 21, but she's going up against Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Skylar Diggins-Smith. It's a tough ask to get a win.
Yeah, that's tough. My word for the Aces versus the Storm, we're going to go with tasty dish, not lasagna, by the way, because that is chuggy. I'm thinking something with a lot of butter, though, because the passes from Chelsea Gray to Asia Wilson were buttery. Also, Asia serving 18 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and that's a revenge win for the Aces over the Storm.